relationships, dating, it is a big part of our lives, and when we're not doing that, or we're unable to because we can't meet anybody, there's something that you want that you just don't have and you want to have it. And my thing is, I feel like the women on this channel who are, and who aren't on this channel, who are just out in the world, who are literally putting their best foot forward on a daily basis when they're going out, wanting to be approached on those days, and you know, you want to meet somebody and you're doing your best, you don't want to do online dating anymore, and you literally just want a man to come over to you on the street or in an establishment and say, you are absolutely drop dead gorgeous, I want to get to know you. Like, can I have your phone number? I would love to take you out for dinner this evening. But some people are finding it difficult. And I'll be honest, because I've seen different comments in my comment section. And it seems as though some people have a view that, similar to me, when you're in your 30s, things can just get a little bit more difficult because you have a different mindset on men, on dating, on relationships, and you're just not fully there mentally in terms of, you're probably, without knowing, you're probably less receptive to anything because of the way that your mindset has shifted because of aging. And I'll be honest, like, I think I'm the same. When I was in my 20s, I found it very easy. Like, I was always actually in a relationship. Then when my mind shifted and I started working on myself more, I had more time where I was actually being single or I was dating, and they were more like quality dating experiences that I was having where it was always beneficial. These men were, you know, helping me out with my bills and making sure I didn't have things to worry about. And since that happens, you know, your mind shifts that you expect more. And then when you get older, you also find it more difficult to actually respect any of them, right? And things just really shift. Like it's crazy over here, and it makes it more difficult for any man to come in and be what you want, because you've realized that none of them really are. So you kind of have to pick and choose what's the most important things to me. Does he have those things? Okay, then that's a situation that I'm happy to go with, and that's a person I'm happy to allow them to get to know me, and vice versa, and just see where it goes. When you're in your 30s, I feel like you can put lots of pressure on yourself. I am the middle child who is unmarried. I'm not engaged, no children. My elder sister is married. She's been married for like 5 years now. My younger sister has a baby. It can like, depending on your family dynamics as well, it can kind of make you feel like, okay, I've got to step things up. I'm kind of behind than where I want to be, and you know, my older sister, my younger sister, they've done X, Y, and Z, and I'm just kind of like, I haven't done the things that I want to do. And like, family members might say to you, oh, when are you going to have, or do you not want to have children? Like, they start asking questions. They might start asking questions like that. I'm quite lucky that I don't have pressure or people saying comments like that to me. The pressure is more so from myself on, okay, I do have to try to be a bit more open-minded with the men that I date, because I can't be as closed off as I actually am, because that is something I want. So like, the shift is with myself, if that makes sense. For women who, you're in your 30s, you want to meet somebody, you don't want to do the online thing, you want to meet somebody in person, you may be having family pressures brought on by yourself or by others. Whatever the situation is, you want to get to the point where you are able to kind of be in a more serious situation. I think it's really about the mindset shift on being more so that you can see yourself being with somebody long term. When you get older, it is more difficult for you to see that you are more stuck in your ways, as people say, at least with your thoughts. Nobody can shift how you feel. You're very strong in yourself and you just can't be swayed. When you're in your 20s, things are very different. And so you've got it, whatever. I'm just doing all of this right now. You're at a point where you don't want to do online dating, you want to meet somebody in person. How can you do that so you can get to the point where you are meeting people? And you want to maximize your chances of meeting people now so that you can actually eventually be able to settle down with somebody. Going out by yourself as a single woman in your 30s is something you're going to have to start doing. I think you can go out with a friend to a bar and men would come over. If there are only 2 women there, I think it won't be that nerve-wracking for them. And if you have that option, if you have a friend, then that is something you could do. But also you can go out by yourself. And I feel like when you are out alone, you're not engaging in conversation with anybody else, and you look more receptive to being approached, especially if you have more of an open facial expression and you kind of look more approachable anyway. I think you're more likely to have those approaches, quality approaches. People who are not quality approaches, non-quality approaches will approach when you're even with your mother. But quality approaches probably won't, and you have to remember this. So you have to get the right balance of when you're actually going out. So you're trying to go out more so by yourself, you are putting your best foot forward, and you have your femininity journey all the way in place, including your feminine voice control, which doesn't have to be you actually changing your intonation, but it might just be something like, okay, you're trying to improve your grammar or your diction. For me, it's all of the above that I'm kind of trying to do, but it's more so the diction and the grammar. So you want to make sure you have that going for yourself. You want to be putting yourself in situations and environments that make it easier for others to actually approach you and start up conversations, be it at a bar, at a cafe, somewhere that's not too formal as well. You're not going to go to afternoon tea and expect to have an approach there. Being at a bar, you're more likely to be approached. If it's a bar that's in a restaurant, going to parties as well, going to singles events, singles parties, all of these things, especially when you're going wine tastings, when you're going by yourself as a single woman in your 30s, sometimes I feel like you might have a thought that I feel uncomfortable doing this in my 30s. I feel silly doing this. I wish I could just be where I want to be already, which is just settle down. I don't want to have to be doing this anymore. These are things that I have felt. These are thoughts I've had, absolutely. And I think most women in their 30s and probably 20s as well, I don't know, but this is more so for the 30s. I think that the older you get, the more you are thinking, I want to be settled down and I don't want anything that is the opposite of that. And you start really maybe feeling almost maybe even pensive about going out, wanting to be approached, wanting to meet somebody. You might feel like it's silly, you might feel silly, but it's not. And you would not be saying that about a man who is 33. You would not be saying that about even a woman who is 43. If she wants to go out and meet somebody, that is her right, and you want that for her. And that's how I feel about you ladies. No matter what your age is, you want to meet somebody, and I feel like you deserve to. And it's the same for myself. I deserve it also. And I am meeting people, and I'm sure you are as well, but you want to meet as many people as possible who are quality approaches to have more of a pool to choose from with who you ultimately will end up with, if that makes sense. So if you're only getting approaches by 2 people a year, that is going to limit when your settling down will actually occur. And because it limits the amount of people you meet, which will limit the amount of quality really people you can really see yourself being with. So it's a no-brainer. The more approaches you have, the bigger the pool you have to choose from. I'm on my tiptoes. I should probably just put this down a bit. Let me see. You want to make sure when you are going out and I have things to do. I'm not just going out to be approached, and even if you are, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have things to do and you're going out but you want to be approached also, or you wouldn't mind it happening, then just make sure you're putting your best foot forward. You're not feeling desperate, you're not feeling anxious, you're not feeling like, gosh, I really need this to happen today, or I'm just gonna crumble into 1,000 pieces. You've got to feel strong within yourself. You have to feel whole within yourself, and you have to feel like, I am a catch. If you feel like that, you look like that, your perfume smells like that, and you are being nice to yourself, you're more likely for those approaches to happen. I've noticed that when I've had a bad start to my day, and maybe sometimes you just have those days where you feel more in a mood, or things just aren't maybe even just going the way you want them to, and those kinds of days can be a fumble, and the approach definitely probably won't happen. But when you're trying to be more optimistic and just generally about your day and about life and about things and about yourself, those are the days where you're more likely to have more reception and engagement with other people, i.e. your next romantic connection, because you're putting yourself more in that vibration. And as we know of the law of assumption, your vibration is what's going to come back to you, and it might not be on that day, which is why it's important for you to kind of keep this mentality as much as possible, as much as you possibly can, because it might not be that day it's going to happen. It might be next week, it might be next month, but you're still going to get those approaches, and the attention you're getting looks wise from the men who you would want to approach you, that is going to be very telling and indicative of if you have the look that they want or not. And I'm a big believer in trial and error, trying different things, different looks, going to different places. Don't only go out to the same bars. Women in your 30s, make sure that you are still going out, you're doing what you need to do to meet somebody, and you're not giving up on things just because you are in your 30s. There is no limit to age limit to somebody having the things that they want. I think if it's something that you really want, something that you're serious about, you shouldn't be giving up for any reason. And if you want to meet somebody, you ultimately want to settle down, and you're in your 30s, you're a single woman in your 30s, you want to meet somebody, you don't want to do the online dating, you should continue to put your best foot forward and go out and make it happen. I've heard so many people say I've loitered around in Waitrose, like the aisles in Waitrose. If you don't know what Waitrose is, it's a more premium supermarket here in London. I'm not sure if they're outside of London, but they are in London, and you're going to meet people in a Waitrose who can afford a more premium diet, more organic food. I've heard people say that they've loitered around in these premium supermarkets in Waitrose trying to meet somebody, and it hasn't happened for them. But people really want to meet organically. I know people are meeting online, but most people do want to meet organically with men and women also. And if you really are going like doing your everyday runarounds, going into supermarkets, going to a bar, going out to eat, going for a drink, going to an event, even if it's a singles event, going to a party, going to wine tastings, living your life, you're going to meet people along the way doing normal things that you will be doing naturally because they're fun for you to do. I don't want you to get too concerned on, I have to go to that place. Ziva mentioned that, okay, that's where I need to go, because it doesn't mean you're going to meet anybody there. You do what works for you, what works for your life at the time, and you go where you want to, you know? So I think it's about doing the things that you're going to do anyway, and you're probably going to meet people along the way while you're doing these things. I remember one conversation I was having with my elder sister. She said, "Well, just meet someone doing the things that you like to do." I, my sister, she's very straightforward, and that's what she said. And I said, "Okay." And I started doing more wine tastings, and you're going to meet people. Now, I would say with wine tastings and any event, there are people who are going to be going with their significant other. There are always going to be couples. You're never going to 100,000% be around only singles unless you're going to a singles ball or a singles party or a singles wine tasting or a singles event. Now, if you're into wine tastings and you're also into singles events, I did go to one kind of recently, which was a wine tasting for singles. This was by an app and a company called Speed Data. So, ladies, that's a recommendation for you. There were a few decent men there, to be honest, and that's something that you could do when you already have a connection about that hobby. So you're both there for that reason. Plus, you both know that the other one is single, probably. So this is going to be a win-win kind of situation for you, and it's an easy way to get those approaches because everybody's speaking to everybody anyway. Lots of these men who maybe you're wanting to approach you, they're probably not that used to doing approaches all the time anyway, because the movements that we've had, and I think men are generally a lot more nervous now to speak to women, but at the same time they're still doing it. It does still happen, and any man who says that it doesn't happen anymore, I think he's more so just speaking about himself, the fact that he doesn't have kind of the cojones to do it because he's nervous of the rejection, and that's perfectly fine for you. But other men actually are out here still doing it, and you can get those approaches. If you're in your 30s, do not give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself just because you're in your 30s. Don't give up on yourself, on what you want. On, I think when you're in your 30s, you know you're never going to find a fairy tale. You're never going to find that alien. It's just not going to happen. But what you can find is somebody who has the core values that you want, somebody who has the morals that you want them to have, somebody who is into traditional marriages like you maybe. You can find these men. They are out here in the world. They're not aliens. They're not living in another world. They are living here amongst us. So you really have to remember that it's not impossible. You can do it. You should be doing it. You should never give up on yourself just because you're in your 30s now. At one point in my life, I would say last year. Oh my gosh, I was like Debbie Downer. I was just thinking, I think I'm gonna give up. Like, I'm getting older. It's giving sad, it's giving desperate. And I was kind of giving up on myself and what I wanted because I felt like, well, I've missed my slot, I've missed my chance. And in fact, the complete opposite has happened, because one thing I've noticed for me is I get more attention now, more approaches, I date even better people, and I'm able to get what I want very like faster because I have been doing it. So I'm able to beneficial date a lot easier, and even easier than before. So if anything, my dating situation has improved, and the only thing that makes me feel nervous is obviously the timeline. But like I mentioned in my dating in your 30s unpopular opinions video, I I have different routes in my mind, so I'm not only putting myself into a box that I could be disappointed in about one day. So watch that video if you haven't seen it already, and I will probably this is my reminder to myself to link that video in the description box. I think in your 30s you have to be very nice to yourself, you have to be kind to yourself, you have to be patient with yourself and show yourself respect, care, love and attention. And what you don't do is put yourself down. You have to have an issue, make a solution and execute it. And that is my advice to any single woman in her 30s who wants to meet men out there in the real world. I signed I signed back up on Hinge a few months ago, and I came off like 2 days later. That's not going to work for me. What can happen online as well is that every single Tom, Dick and Harry from the anywhere around thinks that they have access. Well, they do have access to you, and they can like your photos, and you just don't want to be accessible to every single Tom, Dick and Harry. So I think it's about making sure you do limit your accessibility by making sure that you are maybe going to premium places or you're hanging out in nicer areas. So you want those less accessible men to be more accessible to you, but you want to be less accessible to men who you don't think that could really bring anything positive into your life. You have to be mindful about where you're going, the areas you're going to, the venues that you're going to, who are going to these areas, who are in these establishments. And that's how you kind of gauge where you want to go, places you want to go to, areas you're going to go to. What are you going to be wearing? How are men going to be receptive to you based on what you are wearing? Are they going to think, okay, she's got it all hanging out, she's obviously a working night person? Or are you going to be looking like somebody who looks stylish, who looks like a woman who doesn't need to have it all flinging around to really get attention? Yesterday on the date that I was on, and I mentioned this in the video I just recorded, that this is somebody I've been seeing, and he made a comment actually, because we were going past Sexy Fish at one point. If you don't know Sexy Fish, it is a premium Japanese restaurant, really nice sushi. And it's a lively, buzzy, vibey atmosphere. And of course in Mayfair we have lots of working people, night workers around in Mayfair. And he was saying that he went to that restaurant once, like I've been there once as well, and he said that he wasn't sure if they were night workers or if they were just taking pictures for Instagram or what was happening, but they had every piece of skin out and like just boobs hanging everywhere. And he had a thought, which is that these women were waiting around to meet rich men with money. He also said that he had a thought that any man going up to them would not be respecting them and they would be dating them for that night. And in my mind I was thinking, well, if they're going there, they're taking pictures for Instagram and they have revealing clothes on, it's because that's what clothing companies are pushing out to people, because that's what lots of people are wearing these days. But you have to remember who are the designers. You have to remember this. Who are the people that say yes, who okay it because they want lots of women, young women walking around wearing nothing? You have to remember that. And of course this is something that lots of people don't think about, but at the end of the day, he was basically saying it was distasteful, and he used one of my favorite words, which is tacky. And he said it was tacky, and he hasn't been back there since for that reason, because I would say he's a classy man and he didn't want to be anywhere around that. I thought that was interesting. I mean, I I thought that was quite interesting for him to say that, because it affirmed to me what I already know, which is that how you are dressed is how men are going to perceive you. As women, we know that, I'm just saying this for women in their 30s or whatever age who are going out trying to meet people, they have to be mindful of what they're wearing, how they're presenting themselves, because they are going to be judged accordingly and approached or not approached because of what they're wearing. So, what I'm saying is that I was kind of surprised he would say that he would assume that they were either night workers or that they were just really just dressed so distastefully and it was tacky. And he hasn't even been back there because of that. You know, he hasn't been back there since. And I kind of felt like it's true, because what men do is they say to themselves, she has all of her skin out, so she must only want to be a French Connection UK'd. But this is not true. Men don't know that. They don't know anything. Okay, they just go by what they can see. That's the only thing men have brain cells to do, go by what they can see, what is visible. But of course, as women, we know just because a woman is wearing a skirt like this and she's only wearing nipple covers, it doesn't mean that she wants to French Connection UK. It doesn't mean that. It just means that she wanted to wear that and she thought she looked cute and whatever. But men don't understand this, so just make sure when you are going out, and also you have to be careful, because when you're dressed in a certain way or even not, just we have to be careful. We have to be really careful. um People are weird in this world. We've got to be careful. At least have a coat, and then you can just dress however, if whatever. But I'm just saying. Now let's continue talking about this, because girls, if you're in your 30s and you want to, you might, because you want to put your best foot forward, you want to be dressed in a way that men are going to be attracted to you. Just because you are, let's say you're 33 like me, you don't have to dress like some old fuddy-duddy, because you're not. You're not. And this is one thing we need to remember. Our eggs are, yes, they are getting fuddy-duddied. And we have to remember this. So we need to hurry up and whatever. But we are still cute. And the race is not over. It's not going to be over for quite a while. So you're good. Okay? Just put your best foot forward. Remain confident, self-assured, feeling like you're having a positive, vibey feeling towards yourself. You're not feeling desperate, because you don't need to. You don't need to feel desperate yet. You don't need to. Because you don't need to feel desperate. You just need to put your best foot forward and hang around as much as possible in the areas where the men you want to date and to approach you are going to be. That's it, girly. So keep going, persist, stay persistent, persevere, and don't give up on what you want. That's important. So continue to get up, get dressed, get out, be seen. Get up, get dressed, okay? I'll see you in the next one.